cutie, cutie, right? And everybody has this, right? Some kind of family shots, everybody looking happy, everybody like, well, it wasn't until later on that they found each other. That was them then, and here they are now. Thank you. Appreciate you coming to the show today.
Our pleasure.
Paula and Elyse. Paula Bernstein, Elyse Schein are on the show. It's amazing. The story is incredible. Is that the way to tell it?
It's funny. I mean, we say if it hadn't happened to us, we wouldn't believe it.
This is a Disney movie.
It's a little darker than a Disney movie, though.
Well, starring Danny DeVito.
It's like, it's maybe like an R-rated Disney movie with, you know, international intrigue.
Tell people, get them caught up. Tell them about how this whole thing happened.
Well, I was living in Paris in my early 30s, and when I reached the age that my adoptive mother, my real mother, was when she died, 33, then the desire to know more about my origins really surfaced. And I said, I want to know answers. And I registered with the New York State Adoption Registry, who then sent me a letter. Well, I received a letter about a year after that, not saying that my birth mother was looking for me, hadn't registered, but that I had a twin, the letter that you read from earlier. So I thought, a twin, oh my goodness. It didn't say that she was identical, but I immediately pictured someone just like me, of course, being narcissistic. You know, we all have this fantasy, or there is the common fantasy of trying to find, having a twin out there, someone who's going to understand you perfectly, an ideal companion. I had never had that fantasy, though I had said to friends earlier on in my 20s that I felt like I was missing a twin. I was still floored to discover that I actually had a twin.
What does that feel like?
I was even better than she could have imagined. Once she met me, all of her dreams came true. No. No, really. What was it like? It was like looking at an alternate version of ourselves if we had led a different life.
Not to be glib about it, but did it freak you out? Because you were doing the searching, you weren't doing the searching, right?
Correct, yeah.
So you knew you were adopted? I
always knew I was adopted, and I was not searching, and I was at home in my apartment in Brooklyn with my 2-year-old daughter, and the phone rings, and I'm just, answer the phone, and it was the adoption agency. We've got some news for you. You've got a twin sister, and she's looking for you. And, of course, yeah, my life was forever divided between before and after, and we got, I think both of us separately got a little paranoid thinking, oh my God, why were we separated? Has our whole life been a lie? Has it all been orchestrated? And in a way, it had been. When you get the call saying you have a twin sister and she's looking for you, in the movies they'd have you believe, I can't wait to meet her. But is that accurate? It was a little bit of everything. I mean, I knew at that moment that I was definitely going to meet her, but at the same time I was filled with fear, and I started crying. I think it was disturbing to feel, again, that my life had been a lie, and then also that someone was out there in the world with my DNA, and I didn't know who this person was. It was a little scary and kind of threatening. Did it feel like your life had been a lie, missing this part?
Yeah, I felt angry when I contacted the adoption agency, and they said that they would help me find my twin. I was jubilant, elated, but then I asked them, well, why were we separated?
That's the million-dollar question in this story.
For a twin study. So I couldn't believe it. I said, how is that possible, a twin study? And unfortunately, when I spoke to Paula hours later, she asked me the same question, and I had to tell her why. And we felt that our lives had been orchestrated by these scientific researchers who put their scientific needs, research needs or desires, their career interests, before the needs of us and the interests of us and the other twins and triplets who were separated.
You're put up for adoption. Somebody in the adoption agency says, let's see what happens if we, like, you're being put up for adoption anyway, right? And correct. Let's see what happens if we separate them, the whole nature versus nurture. There was a top psychiatric consultant for the agency, and she, I think, probably had convinced herself, that she was well-intentioned and that she was doing the right thing, but she was terribly misguided, and she had the notion that twins would be better off if they were separated. And then one of her colleagues said, well, if you're going to separate them, we should study them. What a great idea. Did you ever track the guy down who said... We sure did. How'd that go? Hi, you won't recognize me, but...
Well, it was really, incredible. We felt that we were facing the mad scientist himself, Frankenstein, and we were his lab rats who had come back to visit him. But he immediately tried to turn the tables around and said, oh, so you both dealt with depression. How was that? And what age was that? The same age? So. And then he also tried to charm us by luring him into his apartment with Viennese pastries. He was, he said, very charming.
Don't go in. People with pastries are dangerous.
But what was really remarkable is that he expresses no remorse, even today.
But did he just take your call right away, or was it a process?
No. He said, basically barked at us and said no, and in a very strong Eastern European accent that kind of called
kind of like Bela Lugosi and Ed Wood.
Right. We kind of imagined it. We already thought he was, Martin. He's like Martin Landau playing.
Well, if the part of this was a study on his end, right? You were both editors of your high school paper. You both went to film school. When you reached a point where you started to talk about each other's lives, was there a lot of similarities? Were there less similarities?
Well, it's funny because we felt like we were conducting our own informal study of nature versus nurture, which is ironic, of course, because that was the whole idea. And then we got together and we realized that, I don't know if you noticed,
that mannerisms are inherited.
Seem to be inherited.
It's kind of freaky, and you realize how you can freak people out. You don't see that until you see yourself. And imagine seeing another George in front of you.
Bad news.
Facing that, frightening.
In the old days, before I quit drinking all the time, but bad news.
And we keep joking, I think she's the evil twin, she thinks I'm the evil twin, just imagine what that would be like,
You know there are people who are watching who go through this. I mean, you weren't the only two who were put up into the study, and then I heard another, in your book you talked about other people. Tell us about the triplets.
Well, it was sad. They met by chance. There were two who met through friends. They were studying at the same community college in Queens, New York. And they said, oh, my gosh, we're reunited twins. And they were overjoyed.
Yeah, like somebody said to me, hey, you got to meet this Bob guy, right?
That's right.
And then their picture was in the newspaper. And then this other guy's at home going, hey, I'm the third one. And there were triplets.
Well, that story ends in tragedy because that third guy ended up taking his own life, right?
That's right.
Can they, I understand, I'm all for, trying to understand human nature and all that, but can you legally take kids and just do what you want with them?
Well, at the time, it was unethical, but not illegal. But other agencies refused to participate. And then currently in New York State, adoption agencies are required, since '85, adoption agencies are required to keep siblings together. So certainly it wasn't illegal, but it was definitely unethical and certainly wouldn't be done today.
Right.
And we're outraged that it happened at the time. It was the only study of its kind. All other twin studies are retrospective. I mean, because who would think of separating children for the purpose of, well, people often, it certainly was an ideal opportunity, but who would actually go through with it?
Well, that's what I wonder, because I grew up without a father, right? And I know that, if hindsight being 20/20, when I look back, I can say, you know what? I can see where, at the time you don't think it impacts you, but later on you go, yeah, I can totally see why I act that way or how I learned those behaviors, but all after the fact. Now that you sort of gain this understanding of each other and realize that this is your story, does it explain something like you'd said that you felt like you were missing?
For me, there was a great feeling of relief when I received the letter from the agency, because it did, to me, respond to a lot of my own questions about my the way I dealt with others, my relationships with others. It did. And it kind of makes sense to me. Well, my brother is mentally ill, and we were very close growing up. So when I would speak to friends about missing him in my life, I would say, I miss him so much, I feel like I'm missing a twin. So to me, that loss then echoed the primal loss of the separation of us. And when you look at, we looked at sonogram images of twins in the womb, and you see how they kiss and punch and interact with each other. So it's not surprising that, when we opened our eyes in the womb, we saw someone else, and then
we still punch.
I was wondering if you kiss or punch more. Which one do you actually do? The book is called Identical Strangers, a memoir of twins separated and reunited. Elyse, Paula, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Well, good to have you on the show. Really interesting book. Check it out. All right.